As you can see here, I've got 3 images of this tiger. The original you can see up on the right hand side, which is the raw file. If ever there was evidence of exposing to the right, then this is it. The image looks pale, insipid and lacking in power, but in actual fact everything is there, and I think we can demonstrate that pretty easily by just double clicking and opening up one of these into Photoshop. Now the reason I'm showing you this particular image is because I used a technique on this which I've used quite a number of times over the years. Now we all know that we need to focus critically on the eyes of our subject, particularly when the eyes are piercing and looking straight at you from the face of a majestic tiger. But we're human and we get things wrong. And when I look at this particular image, and if I zoom in, you can see that if we're being super critical, I've probably got better sharpness right on the front of the nose, and I'm just beginning to lose a little bit on the eye. Obviously we lose a bit more as we go back, but that isn't so vital. And that's a little bit disappointing. Now the spinning round of the screen has brought you back into Bridge. I've highlighted the original image, and I can offer some suggestions why the critical sharpness has been lost. If you look up at the top left, first of all you can see that I've had to use 800 ISO, and that was the reason to expose to the right. Nothing's worse for noise than to underexpose in any way. But if you look further down here, you can see the lens I used was a Canon 100 to 400 zoom, but the focal length was actually 520, which indicates to me that I used the 1.4 multiplier as well. So I'm not too far away from this particular animal using a 500mm lens, so the depth of field at even f8, in fact I think f8 with the multiplier is as wide as I can go. So you can see what's probably caused the problem with the eyes. But I've done a bit of work on this one, and that's the technique I'd like to demonstrate. But I think what I'd better do is to pick up this one, open this back up into Photoshop and show you the technique. What I want to do is to get this picture as big as I can, but I want to be able to see both eyes, so I'll just go over those two, and that I think is about perfect. I'm going to pick up either the lasso tool or the polygonal lasso tool. Either one will do the job. I'm going to pick up the freehand lasso tool, and I'm going to draw a selection carefully around the eye here. Now I'm using a Wacom graphics tablet, and they're pretty good for this sort of thing. I'd like to feather the edge of the selection just a little bit. We don't want things to be too sharp, they'll be unnatural. If you've ever tried to sharpen eyes like this in the more traditional way, using unsharp mask or even the sharpness controls in RAW, you'll notice that they don't work particularly well. If I go to select a mask here, all I'm going to give this is a 1 pixel feather. That's all I need. So now I've got a selection and just the inside is selected. What I'm going to do now is maybe I will zoom in even more. I'm going to use my clone tool to tidy up the inside edge. And to do that, it's going to mean I've probably got to move my clone source quite a bit. So every time you see that appear, you know I'm hitting the Alt key and making a different clone source point. So here we go, and as you can see, I'm painting into these areas, trying not to leave any telltale signs that I've been around. So I've got to keep my selection quite close. And remember, we're colossally enlarged here, so I think when we get this pulled back, it'll look fine. But if you see any obvious problems, then deal with them as you go. But what we're effectively doing is tidying up the outer edge. See how many times I'm taking a clone source? Quite a number. Keep changing it all the time to get that to be really solid around the edge. Now when I'm happy with that, I can now inverse that selection because I've got a little bit of an overspill down here with the eye, so I'm going to tighten it up the other way. So either Control-Shift-I or select inverse. Now although you don't see a great deal of change, of course we've got everything on the tiger selected apart from the yellow eye. So now I can do the same outside. This is probably going to be easier because it's almost black. And I'm using my clone at 100%. I neglected to say that, but you can see that at the top of the screen. And I'm going to go around and tidy this up all around the edge. And if I need to, see, that's not too good. I'll hit Control Z there. I'm going to take my clone from down here, and even up there you could even, I'll tell you what you could do, you could even pick up black and you could start to spray a little bit. If you've got little tight spots like that, you could just spray around there. Probably do that anyway, and it tightens up the eye. What I'm going to do now is hit Control D to remove that selection. I've got a couple of little areas that may be a little bit suspect, so with my clone tool picked up again, maybe I could just do a little bit of work here. If I felt I was a bit negligent in areas, I could do that. Then I'm going to make another selection, this time just of the black pupil inside there. Once again, I'm going to use 1 pixel as the feather radius, if I can get it right. And I need to do the same here. Exactly the same as what I've just demonstrated. Inside the selection, well, I could just spray black just to get that nice and solid. And outside, use your clone tool, Control-Shift-I, I've just inversed the selection. So now I can tidy up the edge. And I left the highlight there. I think I'll just leave that as it is. Now what I'm going to do is open up my start image and finished image together in layers so we can see this a little more clearly, or certainly see the effect of what I've done. So as you can see with the spinning round of the screen, we have our tiger, and we have a nice big, maybe it's a little bit too big, let's drop him back just a little bit. What we're looking at the moment is the unsharp eyes. These are the eyes that I started with, the ones I said it was a shame. The critical sharpness has just been lost, but I think the image is still good enough to show, so I think I wanted to do something with them. And the technique is what I've got on the layer beneath, so when I turn this one off you can see the difference. I've added just a little bit of extra colour to the other one, but that's all. But there you can see how the eyes are sharpened up. Now of course over the years it's not just eyes which I've used this technique on. Anything where I've lost a little bit of critical sharpness but the image is still well worth viewing, then sometimes if there's something like this that can be done, it doesn't take too long and it makes the world of difference. Just a nice little tip to have up your sleeve.